सहना भवतु सहनौ पुनस्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Together we'll chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, verses 11 to 20.
अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुम् मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागम् ततः कुरु यतात्मवान्। श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यानम् विशिष्यते। ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागात् शान्तिरनन्तरम्। अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च। निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी। सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षः शुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान्यः स मे प्रियः समशत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतस्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदम् यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्दधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः.
Janki ji, you have to unmute.
Sorry. Today we have to do the summary of chapter 12. A great time for us to take a quick overview of that chapter. So what is it that this chapter talks about? Broadly speaking, it talks about 3 ideas. Which are the 3 ideas? Somebody.
Is form worship better or is formless worship better?
Number 1.
Those who do form worship or formless both reach the self.
3
That's
ideas. If you have to divide this chapter into just 3 ideas that it's speaking about. Number 1, it talks about form and formless worship. Number 3, Yashya, talks about the qualities of a bhakta. And now number 2, you're right, Ashya, but you have to first give the second one.
Yeah, it talks about the stages of spiritual.
Very good. So broadly speaking, if you have to keep an overall view of what this chapter is talking about, number 1, it talks about form and formless worship. Why does it talk about form and formless worship? Because this is something that bothers us with the spiritual path. Do we go with form? Do we go with formless? It is a question that will keep on bothering you through this whole path. Some more, some less, but people get bothered by that. So number 1 is form or formless worship. Number 2 is the stages of the path, the progressive ways to reach God. And finally, he gives the yardsticks of development or the 35 qualities of a bhakta. Right? So these are the 3 ideas. Now let us go into each one. First idea was form or formless worship. Arjuna asked this question to the Lord and says, shall I worship this? This means that which you have shown. Remember last chapter, what did we see?
The Vishwarupa Darshan.
Vishwarupa Darshana. We saw the magnificent and awful form of the Lord, holding the entire universe and destroying it. So we saw all of this. So he says, what do I worship? Shall I worship that form which you have shown me, your Vishwarupa Darshana? Or should I worship the inconceivable, the all-pervading, the formless reality? Which of these is a better form of worship? So Krishna gives an extremely categorical reply. He is not beating around the bush. He says, what is it that you must worship? He answers categorically, worship the form. Now, Bhagavad Gita is a text, is one of the Prasthanatrayi. Prasthanatrayi means, you must all know this word. Prasthanatrayi means it is one of the 3 foundational textbooks. If you say something is in Vedanta, it must be in one of 3 textbooks, either in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Brahma Sutras or in the Upanishad. Then you can make a claim that this is what you're saying is Vedanta. Okay, these are the 3 building blocks of Vedanta, let's say. Now, this Prasthanatrayi talks about Advaita, the oneness between a human and God. There is no difference between the human and God except for one thing. And that thing is
illusion, ignorance.
Ignorance. Very good. The only difference between Krishna and us is ignorance. We are ignorant, he is not ignorant. Now, what is this ignorance of?
Our real nature.
Our real nature. He knows he is the self. We don't know that we are the self. This is the only difference between the Lord and us. But this is a very strange thing. This is the concept of Vedanta. And the Bhagavad Gita, which is supposed to be a textbook of this, categorically says that you must worship the form. This is surprising for anyone who would read it. They would say, what? How can that even be possible? The entire Jnana Marga, the entire path is about how man and God are the same, human and God are the same. And now suddenly worship a form. He shows a form and then says worship. So what do we understand from this? We understand from this that the communication of knowledge is not only intellectual. It is a psychological thing. When you want to help somebody, you can't just go to them and give them principles and formulas. You have to bring it down to their level. Suppose you go to a doctor and he tells you, you say, I have this problem. And he tells you, okay, you need to have streptomycin regulated according to the prescribed doses, stuff. What will you tell him? Doctor, just write down which tablet I have to take. Tell me this tablet 3 times a day or whatever. Tell me what I'm supposed to do. Don't give me all this, which element and how, what prescribed do I want. I'm not doing MBBS here. I just want to know what to do. Correct? Similarly, Arjuna is a man of action. He doesn't want to study philosophy. He's asking a direct question. What should I do? Worship the form or worship the formless? The answer to him is worship the form. Worship the form. That is an answer. To whom? Now don't say Arjuna for heaven's sake. The answer is given to Arjuna, but for whom is this question, is this answer?
The one who asks whether we should worship the form.
Very good. This is the answer, the perfect answer for a person who asks the question, should I worship the form or the formless? Suppose somebody asks you, shall I take admission in third standard or in PhD? What's your answer?
Based on where they are at. Are they in the second standard or have they done their MA?
Somebody's asking you the question, shall I take admission in third standard or shall I take admission in PhD? What's your answer?
Third standard.
Absolutely. Why are you saying third standard?
Because if he's comparing the incomparable, that means he doesn't know yet the lower grade.
Because a person who is ready for PhD, will he ever ask you this question? Will Deepraj ask us, shall I join NIT to do my PhD or do you think I should take admission to school? Will he ever ask us this question? Never ask this question. A person ready for the formless will not ask the question. If you ask the question, it means that you have to take the form. It's that simple. Because a person, if will Bill Gates ever ask you this question, there is I have a choice. I can do a partnership with Google for $1 billion, or there is an opportunity for me, a very good opportunity, where I'm going to get assured 200% returns. It is a panwala shop at the corner of my street. Will he ask you this question? If someone asks you this question, what is your reply? You please open the panwala store, because if you can do a partnership with Google, you're never going to ask this question, right? So for those who feel the need for a form, must use form worship, because formless worship is relatively difficult. You have to be at least somewhat grown to be able to conceive the formless, to be able to be inspired by that notion. And if many people say, no, I'm very inspired by the formless. So he gives you the criteria. How will you know? How will you know whether you're ready for formless or not? Does anybody remember? How will you know whether you're ready for formless worship or not? Nobody remembers. I say, nahi karo, please nahi karo. This is my failure. If anyone was doing a test on how good as this teacher, 0 marks they'll give. Nobody. Please come to my rescue, somebody. Koi bhi nahi.
If you have the qualities of the bhakta?
No, right now. He tells you right there and then. At least open your book and look. I don't mind you open the book. We have an open book exam here. How do you know whether you're ready for formless worship? Nobody, no reflection, no revision. Nice, we'll go to class.
When you turn introvert?
All right, fine. But how do you know? This is not going to
If you're in complete control of your senses.
Very good. Who said that?
Akhila Janki.
Akhila. Akhila, excellent Akhila. Verse 4, he gives you the exact qualities you require if you wish to pursue the formless. What are they? Having well restrained the group of senses, regarding everything equally, rejoicing in the welfare of all beings. These are the qualities of one ready for formless worship. Not ready for. One who's doing formless worship will have this. If somebody buys a diamond ring and you say, wow, how wonderful. and you genuinely feel it, then you're ready for formless. If you look at a diamond ring, what use is a diamond ring? Would you ever look at a child who's showing you a Barbie and say, "Oh wow, look at my Barbie"? And would you ever turn around to that child and say, "Oh, what's there in a Barbie"? Why would you not do that? Because you've grown up, you've grown out of it. But if someone buys a diamond ring and is very excited about it, and we feel, "Oh, how stupid, they're interested in the diamond ring," that means we haven't grown out of it. Somebody buys a Rolls Royce and says, "Yay, I got a Rolls Royce." And you say, "Oh, what a Rolls Royce, what is there to show off?" That means we haven't grown out of it. So we enjoy the fact that somebody else is happy. Maybe I don't want those things, but I'm not happy when the child is happy because I want the Barbie too, right? Just happy that the other person is happy. Whatever they got and they're happy about it, wonderful. Good for them. Rejoicing in the welfare of all beings, always happy to see another person happy. Why would we not be? So you are in absolute control of yourself and you enjoy the happiness of others. And everything that comes to you, you are okay one way or the other. You're ill, you're okay. You're well, that also you're okay. You're okay one way or the other because your focus is genuinely not on that thing, it's on something else. So both ways is okay with you. Komal, you have a question?
No, it's not a question. Just wanted to, I was reflecting on this, and because he is able to see formless everywhere, like form everywhere in formless also is seeing form, maybe. उसके लिए कोई फर्क नहीं है form या formless.
The moment you say everywhere,
Because of that, he'll know.
No, the moment you say everywhere, it means formless. Because the whole concept of form is it's somewhere that he is not. See, a form only occurs because this form exists, because this individual is not outside this form. So once it's everywhere, there's no form.
Yeah. Then he is able to see that form everywhere, you can say. Like that Brahman only everywhere, that form, which the form is not a vyakti for that person.
Don't
it's
say
like
everywhere. Don't confuse.
For him, it is not like that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So today we have to finish the summary. So unless we have something to add, let's not do this. Okay, Shivansh, how can I also know how to define form from form? Oh, Shivansh, after a long time, Shivansh, how you define a form and formless? That which can be.
So my question, so my question is not just this simple. Like, I feel like there's a very thin line difference when you come and see this thing into physical sense. So I'm talking about my spiritual experiences whenever I have to go and be in a temple, worship and do all the traditional rituals they are there, and I have been brought up in a condition where that is the definition of spirituality, that is the definition of worshipping. And when I have to go and when I learn about there's a different way of reaching out to that, so that difference is a little how should I say, strange. So I want to, define it also for myself.
So
That's why.
I'm in the process. All introduction to the question is not necessary. Listen to the answer, and if that works for you, good. Otherwise, you can ask a clarification. So, how do we define form or formless? Form is that which is perceivable by the senses. Color and form for the eyes, sound for the ears, smell for the nose, taste for the tongue, and touch for the skin. If your association with the God, with the Lord, involves your senses in any way, then it becomes form. So all the religions have given all different types of forms. At the physical level, we have actually a murti. For those who don't have a murti, they have something like a Kaaba or something like that. The murti can be a human form, or alternatively, it could be like a lingam, which is not a human form, but it is still perceivable by the eyes. So it's a form. Then some other types of forms will be, the next type will be water forms, where you have Ganga, Yamuna. The Christians have the holy blood wine of wine. Also, this whatever you put on the eyes. Now, when you enter the church, I forgot what it's called. So different tirtham. All these are various symbols of God. Then you have air symbols, fire symbol, sorry, which is Havan, the rituals that you're mentioning. The Parsis have the fire temple. All this is all fire. Fire as a representation of the Lord. Then we have air, like various fragrances and things like that. And then we have sound, like Om or Amen or any chant. All of these become a form of form. Now, some people draw the line. They say, no, only if it's a murti in a human form, then we will accept only that as form. Now, that's a matter of personal opinion where you draw the form. But any one of these can be included in the form, as long as it's perceivable to your senses. Any sense, it becomes form. Therefore, even the word Om is form, because it's perceivable to the senses. You can hear it. Okay? So now, if you use any of these, it will be called a form. If you want to worship the formless, then it is just a concept. Just a concept. Nothing else to it. And whether you worship the form or the formless is immaterial, because as much as this thing with the senses is wrong, equally that much the concept of Brahman is wrong. So in the actual sense of it, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you worship. What is the important thing he's going to tell you in the next bit. Okay, are you clear on the definition?
Yes, thank you.
So, and what is the, somebody said something?
Yeah, Janki ji, question here. Now, we are saying that you evolve to formless worship subject to these three conditions.
No, when you're ready for formless worship, you will have these conditions.
You will have these conditions, yeah. So that's at an absolute level, because we are saying full control of senses regarding everyone equally. That's at an absolute level.
No, not yet. It is it's close to the absolute, because now you're a sannyasi, right? So when we are earlier in the spiritual path, all this is rather dramatic. My son versus somebody else's son. My progress versus somebody else's progress. These are all dramatic contrasts.
Yeah.
So all of this starts gradually sort of cooling off. My opinion versus your opinion. All this stuff starts cooling down. And then you begin to see that, suppose you care for your ideal. You don't care whether it's your idea or my idea. Your only yardstick is which takes me quickest to the ideal. So these dramatic contrasts start reducing. So it's not at the absolute level, but yes, you're tending there. And only under that condition, formless will make sense to you.
Yeah, so the related question is, at a relative level, if you are much lower at a relative level, then do you tend to do form worship at a grosser level? And as you evolve, then your form becomes subtler and subtler?
Yes.
That's the way it works?
Yeah. Like if you see Mirabai, for instance, excuse me. Mirabai, when she starts, there is a particular murti that she holds with her. And she loves that murti. But as she evolves and grows, she sees her Krishna everywhere. In her conception of things, she still holds the murti because, she's been doing that. But if you ask her, where is Krishna? She will no longer say it is just in this mood. According to her, he's everywhere. So yes, it subtilizes as you grow. Even conceptually, it subtilizes. Even if you began with rejecting the concept of, this personal God. Many of us who come to this class may have rejected long ago the concept of a personal God. It makes no sense, all this. I remember as a child, I used to argue with my mother so much that I drove her mad. She would tell me, you pray to God. And I'd say, okay, so then I don't need to study if I pray to God. Why are you forcing me to study? No, you have to study also and you have to pray to God also. And then if I have to study, then what is the point of praying to him? Makes sense to pray to him if I can get away from studies. If I have to study anyway, I pray karke kya milna? And then she would get very angry with me and say, this new generation, they have no head. We did not ask our mother such questions. They have too many questions. It's all this unnecessary education. Should take off. Right? But, many of us may have gone through that and felt that, no, I can't go down the street. Otherwise, or at least felt some kind of discomfort with it. Thinking that, if I pray to God, then I will get good marks. And then my friend who studied even harder than me, but didn't pray to God, won't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so because I went to Ganesha's temple, then God is pleased with me. What about those who went to other types of temples? It doesn't make sense. So a person can be very good, but he didn't pray to God. So he will get pap. And I've been bad and I prayed to God and I won't get pap. None of it makes any sense. So you reject it or you're uncomfortable with these concepts. But you may say, okay, I think only sciences make sense. But then as you grow, you feel that no, in spite of that not making sense and science making more sense, still there is more. So you see, even conceptually, it starts subtilizing. It need not be only in terms of the form itself. In terms of physical objects. So both conceptually as well as in terms of perceptions, it subtilizes. Even now, as we grow, you see, whatever you first thought compared to what you think now, the same verses you read. All of us have been reading these verses for now decades, right? And the same verse, means something else now. It's not something else, but it means so much more now than when we first read it. So every aspect subtilizes. Okay?
Thank you.
So it's really not important what you worship in terms of form or formless. The crux of the issue is how much can you keep your mind on God, on the reality, on the truth, on the higher, whatever makes sense to you. It could be the murti, it could be the thought, it could have been the service, whatever. The crux of the matter is how much is the mind staying on the high. So what he says is, those who are able to keep their mind constantly there, for them is meditation, the highest. If you're not able to constantly keep your mind there, then please keep trying. Don't give it up. And along with trying, continue your Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana. Even after trying, Abhyasa, after trying this, you still can't. Then just lower your practices a little bit and act like an ambassador of the Lord. Ambassador of the Lord means all your actions, everything is for the sake of the Lord. Okay, in the highest level, you remember the Lord. You come down one level. What do you mean you remember the Lord? It means that you realize that behind every action, every perception, every thought is the Lord and Lord alone. You get that. So you are with the Lord at all times. In the sense you realize, you hear something, you know that it is the Lord that makes you hear. You, excuse me. If you see something, it's a Lord that makes me see. What I see is not the truth. What enables me to see is the truth. What I hear is not the truth. What enables me to hear is the truth. You're able to stay with this. But when you're not able to stay with this, you come down a bit. Coming down a bit means you say, you don't understand that this is all the Lord. You say, I am doing everything for the sake of the Lord. So you've come down a bit. Okay, so that's like when you function like an ambassador of the Lord. Ambassador in the sense, every single action you do is for the sake of the Lord. You can't conceive doing something else at all. You don't know. Like exactly like how an ambassador functions of a country, right? Now suppose Ukraine and Russia are at war with each other, or Palestine and Israel are at war, or Hamas and Israel are at war. Now let's say in India, there is an ambassador of Ukraine and an ambassador of Russia. And let us say, for argument's sake, that they are brothers, these two guys. I'm just making this up, okay? Let's say they're brothers. Can they go out together? Can they meet? Absolutely not. Because each one of them is a representative of the country. Whatever he does will be seen as that country doing it. He can't say anything he wants. He can't eat anything he wants. Suppose the Ukrainian ambassador in India orders Russian food. Immediately you'll see it in but just Russian food. Why can't I eat Russian food? You'll see it. Everything is to do with the country. You only act from the perspective of the country. So when you're at that level, you do every action for the sake of the Lord. If you find that no, even that is too much, I can't do that, then he says, okay, you can come down even a bit from there. You shall perform, take refuge. Verse 10 says, if you're incapable of abhyasa, regard my action as supreme. Performing actions for my sake. Okay, like an ambassador. For my sake, do it for me, only to realize the self. So what does it mean intellectually? Only to realize the self. I performed every single action for the purpose of realization. That's fine. Can't even do that. Then he's still charitable. He comes down one more, which is verse 11. He says, if you cannot do even that, then take refuge in the union with me and renounce fruits of action. Now he's come down even lower. He is saying, you just do what you need to do. Do not worry about the fruit of your actions. Do this much. Right? You work for self-purification. You work for the union with me. You work for something higher in life. Forget about your interest in the lower, because you do have interest in the lower. See, when you are told forget about the interest in the lower, assumption is there is an interest in the lower. Otherwise, why are you told that? Right? So this is not the level of a sannyasi. You've come down. So be self-controlled. Means exert some little control on yourself. Work for the sake of self-purification. And do not worry about the immediate results of your action. Immediate results means, now suppose we work for self-purification, right? And for self-purification, you say, okay, let's work for Vedanta University. So we start working for Vedanta University. Now, has it come? Has it not come? Don't worry about these things. Day after day, every day, just do what needs to be done. And then he makes his amazing statement, which is that the highest of all of these is renunciation of fruit of action. Another googly he throws at us. He's already come down. No, if you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. That means he's coming down the ladder. Then suddenly he throws another googly. The lowest level, he says, is the highest. Makes no sense. So why does he do that? Think about it. Why do you think he says that the lowest, which is renunciation of fruit of action, is the highest? Why do you think he said that?
Because that is in our control. It's easy. It's what achievable to most people.
Yes, because that is what Arjuna at the moment needs to do. Remember, he told him first also, form is better than formless. And using the same principle, he says, renunciation of fruit is better than meditation. Well, meditation is the highest. How can renunciation of fruit? This much is clear, right? So hopefully from this you will understand that he's used exactly the same technique in the previous portion also. Highest he's put as meditation. Do this, he said. This is it. If you can't do this, then do this. If you can't do this, then do this. If you can't do this, then do this. You come down. And you come to the lowest level and say, okay, now this is the best. How? Okay, how? Because it is the best for Arjuna. And Arjuna represents all of us. So that will be it. But is it wrong in itself? Is renunciation of fruit lower than meditation or higher? What do you say?
Higher.
Higher.
Why higher?
Because in meditation you drop the fruit of self-realization.
Very good. So he's not wrong. Very good. Excellent. So the statement in itself is not wrong. Because even in the state of meditation, you will still have to drop the fruit of action, except in this case, you will drop the fruit of action means you will drop the desire for self-realization. So that's higher than meditation. So sort of a pun on it. It's true for Arjuna at the lowest level. It's also true as a statement in itself, because at the final level, you have to drop the fruit of self-realization. Okay, clear so far?
Yeah, Janki ji, Kathy, can we also say that he is rating action as the highest in this context? Because at every level, there is some bit of action required. Because he says, if you can't do this, do that. If you can't do this, do that. So he's saying do that. So do that is an action.
Yeah, but he's not saying recommending action here. He's recommending dropping the fruit of action, which is true in the whole part.
Which is true in the whole part.
And is also true in the sense of it's higher than meditation, because the last thing you will do in meditation is give up the last desire.
Right.
Then he says that if you're able to do this, if you're able to do just this much in life, you will be a peaceful person. He makes life so simple for us. It almost comes down to our level. And so charitably and so much generosity of heart and so much desire to, to be of benefit. When I say desire, please don't misunderstand that he has a desire, but so much compassion to that people may take the knowledge and benefit. So telling us in so many different ways. So he tells us that if you were able to do so much, you will get peace immediately. And that brings us to the 13th verse, which is, it starts 35 qualities of a bhakta. And the first quality, the most important quality, is adveshta sarva bhutanam. Adveshta means no dvesha, means no dvesha. The word dvesha itself comes from the word dvi, two. So dvesha means hatred, dislike. You know how it sounds like a negative word. But philosophically, it means no to. The question of disliking somebody comes only if you perceive to, right? So no dvesha means complete identification. You feel one with that person. The question of dislike cannot arise. So as you grow spiritually, your feeling of oneness with everyone is so much that there is no two in your mind. And therefore, there is no question of any kind of dislike. Why would you dislike? What is there to dislike? Can your right hand say that, this left hand is so inefficient, it hardly does anything, I do all the work, I don't like the left hand? Can you talk like that? Do the eyes say, these toes are so useless, what do they do in life? I don't like them. It is one. The whole thing is one. There's no distinction where our body is concerned, right? Some parts are, let's say that there's gangrene in somebody's leg. Does that person want to cut the leg and throw it away? Even though the gangrene will kill the rest of the body, the person does not want that leg cut. Is there anyone who goes into surgery saying, yes, let's cut off this leg, it's gangrenous? It breaks that person's heart that you have to cut it out. So many people refuse to do it at the cost of life also. That is called identification. That even if somebody is harming you, you still don't want to throw that person out. You want everyone with you, not with you in the sense everybody should be with you, but in the sense you can't conceive that somebody has to leave. You just can't conceive it. It's too tough for you. That's why I always feel we are in this together. All one of us. Right? So the first quality is about those feelings of oneness, those feelings of compassion, friendliness, but without any form of attachment. See, many people think, yeah, I'm very friendly, I have a lot of friends, I love everybody. It's not that kind of thing. It's not loving a small group of people. Oh, my family I love very much. It's not that. No attachment means no preferential feelings. Do you have preferential feelings in your body? Oh, I like my right hand, I don't like my left hand. Do you have any such thing? No attachment, no egoism. You're not preferentially attached to anything or anyone because you are not considering this body, mind, and intellect as yourself. These are the qualities of a bhakti. Such a person is balanced, right? In pain and pleasure. Such a person is forgiving. Forgiving in the sense you recognize the vasanas of others and you've got nothing against it. You recognize the vasanas of a mosquito to suck your blood. You recognize the vasanas of a tiger, a carnivorous. What have you got anything against them? Nothing. What can you have against them? There is nothing to have against them. That's just the way it is. Don't you feel sorry for the poor mosquito? Every time the mosquito goes to his dining table, there's a possibility that somebody will kill it. Can you imagine that? We all eat 4 times a day, right? We have breakfast, lunch, dinner, we have some chai nasta in the middle. And most Indians have a little bit more also. Now, every time you went to eat a meal and your life was endangered, wouldn't your life be tough? Suppose every time you went to for a meal, there's a possibility you can die. No, every time a mosquito goes to eat anything, there's a possibility it can die. It's a sad life for the poor mosquito. And many times it does die. Because you see, there's a mosquito, you give it one. No, I'm not suggesting don't do it. I'm just saying that is the life of the poor mosquito. You may have to do it because otherwise we'll all die of dengue. But the fact is, see that from the poor mosquito's point of view also. So when you are able to see it all from everybody's somebody else's point of view, you may have to swat the mosquito, but you really have nothing in your mind against it. There's no dvesh bhav. It is not saying don't take the necessary action. It is saying don't take the necessary action with a feeling of dislike. So the criminals in our society have to be maybe hung or put in jail or whatever it is we have to do to protect the body politic. We have to, right? But why? But what need is there to dislike them? You understand those vasanas there and those vasanas finishing. What need for dislike? And we're all practicing this. Every mother who has given their son one tight slap or shouted at their child, do they not love the child? They take a so-called negative action more out of love for the child and definitely not out of any kind of dislike or hatred. So we all actually do practice that, but it's at a very small level. And that also doesn't mean for every wrong thing you go about slapping the child. When necessary, just when necessary, you're able to take strict action. And that's one of the important things because, you know, many good people do not know how to be resolute. That's why in Laodomia, he describes Protasillos. You must read that portion. He was kind as he was resolute. Otherwise, good people are all puchuk and they cannot put boundaries. They will not say, sorry, you can't do this. No, there's no harshness in it. When you're grown, you're kind and you're resolute. Where resolute means you know what you're achieving, why you're achieving, how you're achieving, and you know how to keep everybody else in their places. But many achievers know that, but they don't know how to be kind. A developed person merges the pairs of opposite. You're kind and you're resolute. You're productive and you're peaceful. It's not or, it is and. You're loving and you're strict. Both sides you're able to encompass. Such a person obviously is always content because contentment comes out of doing the right thing. He is always uniting with the self. That means he is not being distracted by anything else, and that's called self-control. Having firm conviction with mind and intellect dedicated to me. These are obvious, right? Such a person will never lack in conviction. Who does not agitate the world and by whom the world is not agitated? Why does the world agitate me? Because I am selfish. Why do I agitate the world? Because I am selfish. How can anybody have the power to agitate me? Is that possible? Impossible, right? How is it possible? Does it ever happen that somebody eats chilies and my stomach starts hurting? Then how can it happen that somebody shouting, yelling, screaming, whatever in the world they're doing, and I am agitated? If he's shouting, he's agitated. Why am I agitated? Somebody is being wicked or harsh or bad. Why am I agitated? He should be agitated. So he who does not agitate the world and who is not agitated by the world, who is free from joy, fear, envy, and anxiety. So all of these basically said that he has lowered his level of desire. Because all of this is a consequence of less desires. That's what it says, free from wants. Free from wants. Now, these are not for us to practice, please. These are yardsticks. Don't say I should be free from wants. There's no such thing. If you have a want, you have it. accept it and work with it and move on. Don't say, oh, I should not want something. There's no such thing. Make a correct assessment as to how you will get whatever you want. Instead of saying, I don't want it. What do you mean you don't want it? That's hypocrisy. I want it, and this is my best bet for getting it. To do that, you will have to have correct expectations. No expectations means you are a pretty dumb person. Correct expectations means you've understood what a particular situation is capable of doing and not capable of doing. Is the weather capable of being predicted? Yes, no.
No.
No. Then why are you predicting it? You know that anything is possible. I mean, if you think about it, the field in this world which is the most likely to go wrong is the IMD. How many times they'll tell you, there's a storm coming, be careful. No storm has come. Then they don't tell you anything about a storm and suddenly there's a storm. They're wrong 70% of the time. And yet we are so dedicated in going to find out from them what the weather is going to do. So many times, in Mumbai, it's pretty bad, the rains when they fall. So people would call me up and say, are we having class today? Because they have predicted heavy rainfall. I used to say, yes, definitely we're having. If they have predicted heavy rainfall, it's a good day to have class. It'll probably be a bright sunny sky. It's every time this would happen. I don't know, Mahesh remembers. Remember, Mahesh, how many times we had this discussion on should we have this class today? And very rarely we had to actually cancel the class because Mahesh's class was at the other end of the world. So we used to go through this discussion. I mean, the whole class would go through the discussion. Are we having class today or not? Such a person is pure. Such a person is dexterous. I hope you all were there in yesterday's class where we were discussing about renunciation. And renunciation, everybody thought that poor fellow is so poor and, living in some horrible thing. Please note the text. Dexterous, skillful, alert, prompt, punctual. Can such a person be poor, for heaven's sake? He is so highly productive. He is not going to be poor. He's unconcerned, untroubled, renouncer of all undertakings. Means that no matter how much he does, he never gets the feeling that I have done it. Because that feeling is incorrect. What can we do? Literally, what can we do? Your own body is not under your control. If you put your head on the pillow and you tell yourself to go to sleep, you don't have the control to do this much. Just go to sleep. And some people, and it's not because they're agitated or anything. Some people have apnea. The body wakes them up in the middle of the night all the time. What control do you claim? You have no control over your sleep. What are you saying? I did this and I did that. What can we do in this world? It's to think that I am a great doer of things is to absolutely not see the ground reality. So such a person never rejoices, nor hates, nor grieves, nor desires. He renounces good and evil. Why? Why? He already told us. Disinterest in the fruit of action. If you have no interest in the fruit of action, then what are you rejoicing and grieving and all this? What are you doing? Any fruit of action that comes to us, simply not interested. Why is he not interested in the fruit of action?
Because he's interested in the Lord.
Because he's interested in the Lord. His interest lies elsewhere. Now, jug mein kya ho raha hai? Mera sir mat khao. I have a job to do. I am doing that job. That's it. My responsibility begins and ends with doing my job perfectly. Many good things will happen. I don't know. Now, because our projects are so big, every day over here, some wonderful thing will happen, then followed immediately by something terrible, followed again by something wonderful. Now, every time if we have to go up and down, we'll all become popcorn over here, jumping up and down on a hot tawa. You know, they threatened to take away our ATG. So we had to go for an IT hearing and all. Big thing. Deepak had to work very hard and collect millions of documents and whatnot and the other. Thank God, everything about us is very clear, always very clear. So finally, eventually, they granted us the ATG after creating so much thing. So imagine when they were taking it away, what you feel. They're giving it to you, what you feel. Can you go up and down all the time? Life will do that. You know that you have done all there is to be done. And that's where our contentment comes from. Not from friend and foe and honor and dishonor and heat and cold and joy and sorrow. No. Your contentment. If you want to have steady contentment, your contentment has to be linked to the quality of your action. Did I do this action perfectly? Can I step back from this action? Look at the answer. Acha kaam kiya yaar. Contentment has to come from there. Even if you fail, it doesn't matter, failure or success. Such a person never holds on to anything. His possessions he can be dispossessed of. Such a person is silent towards the happenings of the world. Obviously, no. There is deep silence within himself. And if you do all of this with Shraddha, such people are dear to the Lord. Dear to the Lord means close to the Lord, identified with the Lord. Today, I love the Lord, and keep jumping up and down, or to dislike something, it makes no sense. If you really identify, dear means love. Love means identification. Identification means oneness. If we experience oneness with the Lord, why would we not be all these 35 qualities? Okay, so that's it for chapter 12. Let us read together the last shloka. Om Tatsadat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Bhakti Yogo Nama Dvadasho Dhyayaha. And to indicate that this is not the end of chapter 12, but the beginning of our study of this wonderful chapter, we'll chant again the first verse. Arjuna Uvacha Evam Satata Yuktaye Bhaktastvam Paryupasate Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Tesham Ke Yoga Vittamaha.